Yeah, we're with you again. We're with you again on Can Youth Exploration, your topic in a podcast. And it's important for you to let's continue this whole this whole issue of mental illness and the stigma, removing the stigma. We and Can Youth Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I'm Ken Youth White. We'll be looking at mental illnesses in a series. This is the first episode in that series. And no, today we're looking at removing the stigma of mental illness. We go back to the Harry and Meghan interview and the fact that it had taught us several things, including the fact that your wealth, your race, and your status does not influence whether or not you would have mental health challenges, and it also taught us that it's okay and to build that courage to actually say that, be transparent that yeah, there has been or there is a mental health there was a mental health challenge. It also taught us that there is a stigma, family stigma that may be attached to mental illnesses, right? But who is the real victim? The real victim is the person suffering from the mental challenge. We have said that, but we have also looked at the definition of mental illness by Mayo Clinic, and that definition said that mental illness or mental health disorders are basically a wide range of mental health conditions that could affect your mood, your thinking, and your behavior. And it includes um, depression, and we talk about that being very prevalent, anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, and eating disorder, and substance disorder as well, right? So this whole thing about mental illness is extremely wide, and so we'd like to continue this other segment of the series, the episode, right? And mental illness, removing the stigma, right? We talked about personal stigma, and as well, and the fact that you may think about what your friends may say if they know that you are suffering from depression or some other sort of mental challenges. Um, but the real victim is you, and you need to seek help. No matter what happened, you need to seek help, right? And that's critical. So you're the real victim, right? It doesn't matter what the stigma may be, because we need to remove that stigma, and that's what we're talking about. You know, there's something else that I like to look at, and it's this whole thing about I like to call silent suicide. You know, many people walking around talking with you, smiling. Um, you know, many people are looking at well dressed, driving nice vehicles, living in nice houses. You might never know that they're having challenges, and we have alluded to that, with mental illnesses, but more so that they either have thought about suicide or attempted suicide. You never know. You know why you never know? And the public will never know, or some persons will never know, because of what we are trying to encourage people to remove. That's the stigma. So it's called silent suicide. I call it that. You know, there are persons who will look on people who have attempted or thought about suicide as being mad, crazy. But that attempted suicide or thought suicide ideation, it's not being crazy. It's not being mad. It's being asking for help. It's being asking others to understand that I am going through too much that is really too much for me. Yeah, that's what they're asking. And that's what we need to understand, and we need to be able to give to them. You know, so don't call people who have attempted or talked about suicide crazy. They're not. There are challenges, and I keep saying we're human beings and we're responding to stimuli in the environment. And you can be good today and become mentally ill tomorrow, guys. You can be. So it's not about the other person. It's about you and something you need to take into consideration. I talked in earlier segment about mental illness being something that we pick up when we see something happening. Yeah, we pick it up now because of the Meghan Harry interview. We had picked it up in the shooting in the school, Portland, right? We have picked it up in many after many events, and then dropped it again somewhere to be picked up again. So this stigma has caused um, people to not talk about their intention to commit suicide. Usually, suicide comes with depression, and more likely depression more than anything else, right? Severe depression. I can't live anymore. I don't want to live anymore. You heard that in the interview. You heard that. And that is because of the I can't take it anymore syndrome while responding to the environment, the stimuli in the environment. And that's real, people. That's real. Whether you're black, white, orange, pink, whether you're rich, poor, in between, that's real, right? Whether you're to be called sir, that's real. Whether you're to be called madam, that's real. Mental illnesses are real. Doesn't matter who you are. So drop the stigma. Drop the stigma. Drop the stigma of mental illnesses. drop the stigma, guys. Let's look at some statistics. Some statistics of mental illnesses. Rethinkstigma.com is where I am going to be finding my statistics, right? This first one, and then I go through the series, we'll be looking at these statistics. But let us look at a few of them, perhaps around 5 of them. This first one, 6.9% of adults in the United States, 16 million people at that time when this was done, had at least one major depressive episode in the past year, right? I think this was done 2017, right? Look, guys, when I was, and I told you before, I have a degree in psychology. When I was in university studying psychology, I was told, and subsequently as well, through listening to broadcasts by the persons in the profession, that each of us have at least one abnormalities. What's yours? I think I've sometime OCD. I would go to the fridge, close it, then did I close it? Go back. Did I close it? And maybe I used to wash my hands, regular. I mean, feel like it's dirty, and well, I mean, well, that disorder we'll talk about. Because I will talk to you about some of these disorders. Each of us have some sort of flaw in our mental capacity. Is that so? Well, this statistic is saying that 6.9% of adults in the United States had at least one major depressive episode in the last. That's a whole lot, right? That's a whole lot. And those are adults, not to mention children. Because incidentally, did you know that children can become depressed as well? Children can become depressed. Children can become mentally ill. Your 2-year-old, that child, you might say, well, what is stressing? Yeah, I've gone to a seminar on childhood depression, and trust me, you'll be amazed to know that your child, even though he's not working, you're providing a home, your clothing and food and so on, and paying the bills, but that child can be stressed. So don't think that your child cannot be stressed. We look at childhood depression at another time. You can send me an email and remind me, wradio668@gmail.com. wradio668@gmail.com. Send me an email about anything you'd like to talk about, and we'll discuss it. And in particular in this series, right, and mental health. The next one is more than 90% of people who die by suicide show symptoms of mental health condition. That's alluded to that. Depression. Those symptoms. And we look at that again. Email me, right? And depression. So you find that it starts there as well. And they have actually committed suicide, and they have showed symptoms, but are we looking, guys? That's something we need to look at again. What you should look for? Are we looking? Are we seeing it? Or again, have we actually seen that there are those symptoms, but look aside because of the stigma? Go back again to that. Remove the stigma, guys. The stigma is a very critical thing. It's piercing this whole thing of mental illness, and getting rid of it or reducing the impact of mental illness. Next one, approximately 1 in 5 adults in the United States experience mental illness in a given year. Think about it. I talked to you about you can hear today well, and tomorrow you become mentally ill. Yes, I've seen it happen. I talked about that before. A friend, right? Today she was good, tomorrow She was schizophrenic, running from even her daughter, thinking that her daughter wanted to kill her, wanted to hurt her. A daughter that I know she loves so much, right? She's a co-worker. We know she loves her daughter so much, right? Um, one in five, 18 to 25 years old, experienced mental illnesses in the past year. Yeah? And the final statistics I'd like to share with you, 18.1% of adults in the United States experience an anxiety disorder. An anxiety disorder such as post-traumatic stress disorder, obsessive compulsive, we talk about that, OCD, and specific phobia. That's another thing. Hey, I'm gonna talk you through this mental health thing. I said to you, I have a master's in psychology. I have had a private practice in Jamaica for over 15 years, and I've been, working in mental health here in the United States as well. So we're gonna talk about those things, right, as we go through the series, right? But look, consider those things, as I said, as I end this segment and this episode of our series in mental health series. This is episode 1, right? And Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I'm Canute White. Look, remove the stigma, guys. Remove the stigma. The family stigma, the individual stigma. The real victim is the person suffering from the mental health, right? Remove that stigma. And because of that stigma, people are experiencing silent suicide, right? And they don't talk about the suicidal ideation or attempt, right? So remove the stigma. Go, accept people, accept that. Wow, we have accepted so many things in this society. Accept that people can become mentally ill and take care of them. And we talk about the gender issue as it relates to more women more men on the street, right? With mental illnesses, being exposed, being naked, and eating from the garbage bin than females. Where do we deal? How do we deal with that gender challenges in mental health? Maybe that's another topic. Email me now, wradio at gmail.com. WRadio 668, WRadio 668 at gmail.com. WRadio 668 at gmail.com. On Instagram, Canute Exploration. Facebook, Canute Exploration. Right? Canute, CANYOUTH apostrophe S Exploration. Canute Exploration on Instagram and on Facebook. Email me on at WRadio 668 at gmail.com. We're on YouTube. Canute, CANYOUTHS apostrophe S media. Look out for us. Rate, comment, subscribe. Rate, comment, subscribe. Rate, comment, subscribe. Rate, comment, subscribe so that you can know when we're on Canute Exploration. If you are listening as a podcast, remember, look for us on all your favorite podcast platform. And as we say, rate, comment, and subscribe. And do that on YouTube as well, because these episodes will be there. Thank you for listening. We'll talk again as we look at mental illnesses and in the series. You take care and be safe, be safe, be safe.